So I've never really played New Vegas. My only experience with New Vegas was a stream from a few years ago where I eventually just got impatient and tried to level myself up through console commands because I assumed it would make the game easier. That was a few years ago now, and I haven't touched it since. So I think it's pretty safe to say I've never really played New Vegas. I've never seen the ending. I don't even remember if I made it to the strip. In this video, we're going to change that, because I made the genius decision that my first time ever beating the game should be in something I recently learned about while scrolling through YouTube called a weapon restricted run, which I've come to learn is actually pretty popular with Bethesda games. Now, the only research I've done going into this run is where I can find my gun and where I can buy ammo for it. Other than that, I got nothing. I'm going to be real with you. I have no clue what's going on, where I'm supposed to go, and what's going to happen. So I know you're probably curious about what gun I used and what kind of experience I had. So sit back and relax as I tell you my painful as hell experience of my first time playing Fallout New Vegas. The game started off, as I'm sure you're all familiar with. I got shot in the head, and then I wake up with some old man staring at me who introduces himself as Doc Mitchell. Seeing that I'm incredibly creative, I went with a name that I thought would be fitting for the run, and playing into my creativity made the most beautiful being to ever grace the wastelands. When it came to stat points, I sucked everything out of strength and charisma because I didn't see the point in having either for what I was going to be doing, and I'm familiar enough with intelligence to know that I needed to put a bunch of points in to affect my experience. Agility for guns, since the BB gun counts as a rifle in Fallout New Vegas, and the rest of my points went in perception for accuracy and luck for hopefully more critical hits. When it came to my skills, I went with guns, medicine, and sneak, and I chose skilled and wild wasteland for hopefully some added fun for my traits. My first trip into the Mojave didn't really last long, as when I made my way past the cemetery, I died to some rad scorpions. It was at this point where I considered that roads might be just a slightly safer option. I found a place called Sloan, and because my medicine skill was high enough, I fixed Snuffle's legs. I didn't really need to stop here, but I'll take any XP that I can get, because I didn't know it now, but I wouldn't be getting much. Sneaking through Deathclaw territory went well, as the Deathclaws ran away at the sight of me, so I was able to book it out of there. I was attacked by some fiends as soon as I made it to the next set of buildings that I could find, and luckily for me, the fiends got gunned down in the street by the NCR, so I was able to take all the ammo off the corpses and continue on my way. That was until I got distracted by one of the soldiers using some Skyrim levitation magic, and I realized that Skyrim invades everything that Bethesda makes. When I finally made it to the shack where my weapon should be, it wasn't anywhere for me to find. Well, shit. This is an issue. After a little more research, I figured out that by picking Wild Wasteland, I shot myself in the foot because it not only changes the spawn location, but locks it behind some specific unlock criteria. So instead, I was on my way to Freeside so I could find a dog. Once I found Freeside, I had to find a man called the King, who apparently owned the dog I'm looking for, and once I finally found him and learned that his dog was named Rex, I also learned the pain that I decided to inflict upon myself. See, I needed Rex to say a specific line that happens entirely at random, and the requirement before the line even happens is I need him to be my companion, which I can only do by doing quests for the king. So I hired a fraud of a bodyguard named Oris and then got sent to a fort to check on some of the king's men, where some kid immediately pulled a knife on me.
Hi.
Things seemed all good until the king told me to go help with a shootout, which amounted really to just me standing around because I can't do anything combat related until I get my gun. And honestly, it was at this point where I thought the run was over because I had no way to pass this quest. I went back to the king to see if maybe I could just skip the fighting since I had gotten his boys home, and it was there that I got the quest that I had been looking for the whole time, and the run was back on track. I talked to a doctor who told me that I needed to take the dog to Jacobstown, and things were off to a great start as soon as I got outside because Rex decided to shove himself into a car. The NCR that were waiting for me from the previous quest that I was skipping also turned him into Swiss cheese about 4 seconds later when we stepped outside. Keep in mind, this whole time I'm still level 1. While I was walking to Jacobstown, I got jump scared by Malcolm Holmes, which was followed up by Rex picking a fight with some Cazadors that left him with negative 95 HP for some reason. When I made it to Jacobstown, I was told my trip was essentially pointless because I'd have to go all the way back across the map to look for new brains for Rex. While I was there, though, I completed Unfriendly Persuasion and got myself to level 2. And finally, after 2 hours of walking around and trying to get Rex to say his stupid line, and 5 overall hours into the run, I got the map marker for the well. I found the well, Rex beat the hell out of the mole rat hiding down there, and I got my gun. And that means finally, after all this time, ladies and gentlemen, the run can begin. First things first was a test. The NCR soldiers that shot my dog I decided would be the perfect targets. Idiots dealt with and loot acquired, it's time to make some money. I've played enough Fallout 4 to know that I can steal a vendor's goods and then sell them back to them for a slightly lower profit. And the Van Graffs just happened to have everything expensive sitting out in the open. With some more money in my pockets, I was feeling good, and I wandered over to the Atomic Wrangler to check it out and ended up gambling, which turned out to be incredibly lucrative. I finally made it to the strip, and of course I had to see what all the fuss was about with the casinos that everyone talked about. After that was over, I made it to the tops and I found Benny. After a brief talk, I was sent up to the presidential suite to wait for him, where he double-crossed me and tried to kill me. After a quick escape, I met up with Mr. House and was sent to Kaiser. On the way, I decided to test the gun out on the local wildlife, and I lost horribly to a bark scorpion that I'm pretty sure is the weakest creature in the game. Once I made it to Cottonwood Cove, I took the boat to the Legion camp where I talked to Kaiser, and he told me to go to a hatch that Mr. House had told me he wanted me to go to anyway. Oh yeah, I also found Benny, and Benny told me that there was a way for me to come out on top of everyone, which I immediately decided that's what I was going to do. When it came to the bunker, I decided to just take a bunch of chems and sprint through the entire thing, which worked like a charm, except for it cost me all of my healing items. When I got back into the tops again to find Yes Man, I realized that the tops had shifted out of this plane of existence and entered some sort of purgatory. After talking with Yes Man, I made my way to Mr. House's control room, broke my way in there, and killed him with a BB gun, which is honestly just embarrassing. Yes Man then sent me off to meet with all the important groups of the Mojave, and there was honestly more than I thought. Entering the Ultralux not only killed my sound, but also my game when I tried to leave. I had a quick check with Mortimer Majorardi, or however you say her name, I honestly can't remember, and I decided they were a bit too odd for my liking. They were just kind of creepy, so I decided to leave them alone since I had satisfied their quest requirements. I went to Hidden Valley since one of my markers were there, but I honestly couldn't find anything of importance except for a sealed bunker that did nothing, so I decided to leave it till later. I went to Nellis and met the Boomers, and I met them again. And again, and again. The love of explosions made me decide that they would be spared even before I actually met them. While I was there, I tried to do some quests and decided to stop after the first one because it took half my ammo to complete. I met a kid named Pete who was going to tell me an amazing story, but he apparently forgot the whole thing after just a few sentences. And Pete killing his story killed my interest in the boomers, so I just stole 100 BBs and set out to find the cons. On my way to the cons, I managed to snag another 200 BBs, bringing my total to over 600. When I finally made it to Red Rock Canyon, I can say for certain the rocks are very red. I decided to leave the cons alone and went back to Hidden Valley, which I'd figured out was the Brotherhood of Steel by process of elimination. After searching through multiple bunkers, I finally found the Brotherhood of Steel, and the first thing they told me to do was get naked, so I tried to turn around and leave. Leaving wasn't an option apparently, so I decided to go ahead with their strip show, and they took me to some old man who I guess is into that. After finding an NCR Ranger that the old man wanted me to get rid of, I somehow got him to remove my collar by telling him the truth of my situation. Apparently I messed up by doing this, however, because the Brotherhood materialized from around a corner and tried to kill me. After shoving Yes Man into a computer and watching a short demonstration, I left everyone alone and President Kimball for dead since the NCR hates me, so I didn't figure I'd be able to help anyway, and I made my way to the El Dorado substation. I reached level 9, where I finally maxed out my gun skill, which wasn't much of a help if I'm being honest. And when I made it to the substation, I found the place entirely crawling with NCR, so I honestly expected a fight, but everyone was as blind as hell. Oh, I also learned that Kimball died at some point.
They got to President Kimball. How long can we hold out?
Not much happens here at the Dorado, and that's how we like it.
My folks back home got lights at night thanks to what we're doing here.
And here we are, the Battle of Hoover Dam. And it went a lot more easily than you'd think. Even though they hated me, the NCR hates the Legion more, so I was able to just run past everyone while they fought each other and make my way inside the dam. While in there, I managed to get my hands on some power armor, which was an unexpected bonus, and with a flip of a switch, I was out of the dam and headed off to deal with the Legion and claim my robot army. I breezed through the Legion until I reached the Legate, who promptly summoned a posse and kicked my ass so hard that I had to stop recording for a while and plan out how I was actually going to win. After about half an hour of trying various strategies, I finally managed to kill the Legate and met General Oliver, only to have myself blasted out of existence in a few frames, and then I was staring at the Legate again. After another 40 minutes of attempting the same strategy that won the first time, I was finally back with General Oliver, and I wasn't going to go down so easy this time, so I managed to shove a bunch of healing items into my body and duck around a corner and let the robots handle everything. And finally, not only did I beat Fallout New Vegas for the first time, but I also proved that you can beat Fallout New Vegas with the Abilene Kid LE BB gun. Man, this was very painful to do. But if you want me to do it again in Fallout New Vegas with a different weapon or in another Bethesda game, or you have an entirely different challenge altogether, leave a comment below and I'll take it into consideration when I decide to put myself through this hell a second time. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video, and I thank you very much for your patience in waiting the 3 weeks it took me to make this. Have a good one.